and Polis, a very good book on Palestinian monasticism by Davos Chitty, is entitled The Desert, the City. So, philosophy in Athens and other places is something done by free men discussing freely on the marketplace, on the agora. Monks normally don't speak much, but we've gathered interesting collections of their sayings. But anyway, they are the polis, the city. This polis is meant to be wise, and this polis is a city of men devoted to contemplation. What I'm saying here has been said at length in a splendid article by Hans Force and Balthazar, the title being Philosophy, Christianity, Monasticism. To add, of course, that there are always bad philosophers. I've quoted the sophists here, but the monk may be also a bad philosopher. So discussing the project is not the same thing as discussing the achievements. And one of the failures of this article by Hans Force and Balthazar, and in another article, also very bright, on theology and holiness, one of the failures is not to make it clear that as the philosopher, the Greek philosopher, after all, is not always the saint, the monk and the theologian are not always saints. In any case, what we learn here is that Philosophia Christiana, which I had mentioned earlier, is a spiritual enterprise. I'm unhappy about spiritual. I'm afraid no better word is in our dictionaries. What does it mean? Well, a major phenomenon first, that one cannot find many philosophers, Neoplatonians, Stoics, and Christians who have not prayed. The philosopher's prayer is a fairly common experience. It starts, let us say, with Cleanthes in the Zeus. Then we may find, for instance, Augustine's Confessions, which, as a matter of fact, are a prayer. It's perpetually thou. Augustine is not speaking about God. Some way he's speaking about Augustine. But when he's speaking about Augustine and about God, he tells it to God. It's a perpetual prayer. And in the end, but it's not the end, we might find the example of Anselm of Canterbury. We'll be back to the Middle Ages tomorrow. But Anselm is a test case. We all know that in his monologium, Anselm develops what has been called for a very long time the proof of the existence of God. You do know the story. It has been the common story till the beginning of the 20th century. Anselm was a man who on the one side could pray and on the other side could write metaphysics. and an almost forgotten philosopher who nonetheless was the best French philosopher in the 19th century, Guattari. Guattari is the author of a book on God, where he lists all possible people who say something about God. There's a chapter on Anselm, and the section begins by, in his two metaphysical works, Anselm proves that. Anselm is supposed to be the author of metaphysical books and theological or religious works. All right. I've been taught it is good, It lasted till Calvert, who published an epoch-making book on Anselm, Fides Coherens Intellectum, and in Fides Coherens Intellectum, Baum very simply points out that what looks like a rational argument in Anselm is in fact interwoven with a prayer. Anselm doesn't define God as he who no greater being can be conceived. No, it's always thou. Thou art the greatest being. Thou art the unsurpassable. In Anselm, Baum has proved, is not guilty of metaphysics. He's simply praying, and in his prayer developing an argument. Other point, I'd say that it was perfectly possible to start with Theoria, deflation, and never reach theories. Now, to be fair, Neoplatonism, or Hellenism in general, was contemplative, and it was philosophical insofar as it was contemplative. In the perpetual alliance we find between Hellenism and Christianity since the roughly second half of the 2nd century, it's obvious to the Christian who reads Greek philosophy that he's reading texts very akin to his own tradition. Philosophia Christiana, Philosophia, when Origen describes the people of Israel, and Theoria in Hellenism, even when Theoria may degenerate into magic, as I